What do you worship and what do you sacrifice? For the last few weeks, many of us have been reading the story of the nation of Israel and how they were liberated from bondage in the land of Egypt under the rule of the Pharaoh. Now, you don't have to believe in the Bible. You don't have to be a religious person. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to go to synagogue. You don't have to be a practitioner. But there are stories in in the Bible that have tremendous value that can apply to our own lives. They are what are called archetypal stories as they occur all throughout time on a national and individual basis. So in the story, the nation of Israel is liberated from Egypt. They're expelled. They're thrust out. They go into the wilderness, Egypt. They leave Egypt and they land in the wilderness in the middle of the desert. They're brought to Mount Sinai. They receive what's called a national revelation, where everyone witnesses the Almighty, His presence, His power, and then they receive the laws from the Almighty. And then 40 days later, Moses is gone up on the mountain. They don't know where he is. They run out of patience. They get scared something's happened to him. And they ask Aaron to build either a substitute for Moses or actually maybe even a substitute for God himself. Now, this is very unusual because 40 days prior, they had just witnessed everything. They had just before that, they had crossed the sea. They watched the Egyptian army decimated in the sea. They watched the nation of Egypt brought to its knees by a series of plagues. They had food provided to them, fell from the sky. They had water that came from a rock. And yet here they are 40 days after a national revelation where everyone witnessed the power of God. It says that they saw the thunder and heard the lightning, which is a strange language. I guess if it's an experience none of us can really even understand. But here they are, 40 days Moses is gone, and now they have to worship something else. And the point that Dr. Jordan Peterson makes is that human beings are wired to worship something. Now, preferably, it's some type of higher power. So what he refers to as a superordinate principle, something outside of this world that doesn't change, that is steady. Not a king, not a president, not a political party, but something up above that you can live by, that is stable throughout time, that provides you with a way of living, that guides you through difficult times. And preferably, maybe if we had similar views where the majority of society believed that there is a higher power, that the universe was created. I'm created for a purpose. The universe was created for a purpose. We all have equal value. We're all created in the image of the Almighty. To have these kind of basic views in common probably makes for a better society. When you worship a king, not so much. When you worship a dictator, not so much. And when Moses disappears, the Jewish people now all of a sudden have to worship something. And they come to Aaron, and Aaron builds them a golden calf. He takes the jewelry that they have left. Interestingly, the jewelry was taken from Egypt as a reward for their slavery. They used that gold to build the tabernacle, so raising it up to a higher purpose, to worship the Almighty whose presence is inside. They use the gold to build something like that where they can worship something like a superordinate presence or power that is above this world. In this story, they take their gold investments and they donate it to make a golden calf. They worship a golden calf. They worship something that is supposed to be sacrificed. A cow isn't something that's supposed to be worshipped. It's something that's supposed to be sacrificed. We believe that Adam named all the animals in the Garden of Eden. We ride on horses. We eat cows. We eat chickens. We don't worship them. So here you have an example where the gold is taken, and instead of it being used for a higher purpose, as in the case of the building of the tabernacle, they took this stuff from Egypt and built a cow. A golden cow that they then worship. They took the gold, instead of using it for something good, they used it for something bad. And in our own lives, there are things that we worship that we probably shouldn't worship. And think about in your own life, what do you sacrifice to? What do you devote your time to and your resources? What are the things that you devote your time and your resources to? That is the thing that you worship. Now, some people say, I don't believe in God. Well, you believe in something. You believe in something that if it's not God or religion, there is something that you sacrifice your time and your resources to that you worship. And it's different for everybody. Some people it is the love of money and the possession of things. Some people it's their political ideology, their gender ideology, their sexual preference. There's all these different things that can be raised to a high enough level. It is literally becomes like a religious belief. And whether or not that makes their life better or for worse, they have to decide for themselves. But it seems like we are designed to worship something. And when Moses is gone, now we focus on the golden calf. And we take our resources. They took the resources and they built something, but the resources should have been elevated to a higher level. Instead, they used the resources instead of for something good, for something bad. And at the end of the 19th century, Friedrich Nietzsche wrote that when God is dead, and this is one of the famous lines about him, is that that he says that God is dead. He says when God is dead, then human beings will replace God and religion with something else, and that will not be good. He says it will be power. Power, not a belief in the purpose of the universe and equal justice under the law, and we're all created in the image of the Almighty. The universe was created for purpose. I'm created for purpose. These are unchanging principles, all changing that do not change throughout time. No, when God and religion are gone, we will replace it with something else. And Nietzsche predicts that it will be power. A generation after him, you have the Bolshevik Revolution that overthrew the Tsar in Russia. This was supposed to bring unlimited and equal prosperity to everybody, and it brought absolute tyranny and chaos with big hopes, big promises that just did not pan out because the focus was power, control over the population, and principles and rules and moral principles that were just made up and applied without some type of higher purpose, some higher meaning, some superordinate principle that everyone could orient themselves towards. They oriented themselves towards now not the Tsar, but the premier, the dictator of the Soviet Union. That became, he decided the laws, everyone had to abide by the laws. Everyone abided by the laws, or there were serious consequences for not doing it. So it wasn't focusing on a higher power and purpose and meaning and God and the Almighty. It wasn't that. It was on the premier. And when the premier died, he would be replaced by another one, and then another one. And the people literally understood that he was in charge. He could decide, he could take life, he could give life, he could take it away. And then everyone had these laws enforced upon them, and they abided by them or else. So in closing, do not, Dr. Jordan Peterson also said, do not worship what should be sacrificed. Cows and horses, we ride on horses, we eat cows, we eat chickens. These are not things that are supposed to be worshiped. You're supposed to worship the things that are the most valuable, that get your life on track, that can lead you through difficult times. Do not take your resources, in the case of the gold that the Jewish people got when they left Egypt, and use that gold for something bad. Use it for something good. Build it. They used it to build a tabernacle, to build the Mishkan, to worship the Almighty. You could just as easily take your resources and squander them on things that don't matter. And what do you worship in your own life? If it's not God, it's not religion, it's something else. And is that worth sacrificing towards or sacrificing to? The thing you put in the thing you devote your time to and your resources to, that is what you worship. And people elevate certain things. Maybe it makes their lives better. Maybe it makes them worse. But it seems like human beings are wired to worship something. I would just recommend that it is something that is worth worshiping, that makes your life and the lives around you better, that are not divisive, that can help you get through difficult times, that can help you get through the desert, the wilderness, that can lead you to the promised land. That's probably not worshiping a person. It's probably not worshiping an ideology. It's something up above and beyond. You can easily be focused on a golden calf, and then that can distract you instead of sacrificing. Instead of taking your resources and giving them over to something that should not be worshipped, unfortunately, people can bring to worship something that really should not be worshipped. They should be orienting themselves to maybe some higher meaning, some higher purpose that enables them to get through the difficult times, rather than getting focused on something down here when they should be focused on something that gets them, takes their lives in a better direction and makes the lives around you better. Thank you for watching.